Trust is an important part of producing this show together, Chris. So basically, when we left Ascot, you said, jump in the car, follow me. I've done that. Where am I?
Well, I haven't let you down yet, right? So I've brought you here to actually Northcote. Right behind us is the former Fitzroy racecourse. But no, we are in Northcote. It's actually in Northcote. A funny thing, it was actually originally called the Croxton Park racecourse because we're near the Croxton Park railway station. Fitzroy racecourse. Put together in 1891, two gentlemen owned it, 30 acres of land, again, another private racecourse here in Fitzroy. 5 furlong course, very much for pony and trotting, so, you know, short, so 5 furlongs, about 1,000 metres. Pretty tight turns on these 30 acres of land behind us here.
So, started up in 1891. I think it's fair to say racing didn't get off to the best of starts here.
No, and it was tough times, right? So the 1890s turned out to be a depression, and you know, so it didn't kick off all that well. It sprung back to life about a year later, 1892, and survived quite well through to 1906 when John Wren, very famous in racing and the history of Victoria, he actually took over the lease of this racecourse, as well as Ascot, as well as Richmond, and he ran them quite well and quite successfully through to about 1919 when he actually sold them to the Victorian Trotting and Racing Association. But this course here, downtown Northcote, I know it was called Fitzroy, but downtown Northcote, quite successful, ran a number of meetings. Now, back in the day, it's very busy, very populated here, but back in the day, this was kind of on the outskirts, you know, but it was a little way out. But we got the tram line just here, we got the train line not far away, very easy to get to, very close to working men in their places of work, their places of living, a great race course.
Chris and I have gone for a bit of a wander here at Fitzroy from the busyness of near the entrance at St George's Road to Bird Avenue, where essentially this would have been near where the turnout of the straight was. Now we've come from Ascot, Chris. Here we are at Fitzroy. These are tracks that have got a commonality.
Yeah, they are, Ed, and you know, they're private or proprietary courses as they were known, and there were quite a few of them, right? So we're going to look at Ascot, we're looking here obviously at Fitzroy or Northcote. These are all proprietary racecourses, and so they have that similarity. The ones that we're looking at today, they're more around, you know, pony and trotting, we're a big part of these, but a lot of these proprietary courses existed, and there are a lot of them in Melbourne.
And as far as pony racing is concerned, there's a proper definition to what made pony racing, more than just small horses.
Yeah, well, they were small horses, but 14 hands, 2 inches was the maximum that a pony could be. There was a second type of horse, it was called a Galloway, and a Galloway had to be between 14 hands and 15 hands, so quite technical. Now, there was a lot of suggestions that these horses were poorly bred. That may be the case, may not be the case, you know, they're just smaller horses, so it was a good outlet for some of these smaller horses. And even, we'll get to some of these courses where you see some very working men type horses, you know, horses that were pulling carts and drays during the day, might have been racing in the evening, right? So it was a different class of racing. A lot of these courses, you know, this one here sprung up in the 1890s, a time that was pretty tough here in Victoria. You know, we'd come through the gold rush, we'd come through some very good times, and we headed into depression. Nowhere worse really than here in Melbourne, where a lot of houses were repossessed, a lot of people lost their jobs. People needed an outlet, people needed something to do, and racing jumped into that void for a lot of people.
And pony racing in particular catered towards a certain class demographic.
Yeah, it certainly did, you know, and probably got a little bit of a bum rap at times for what it was. Many of these smaller horses, many of these ponies were well bred, they just hadn't grown, right? And so, you know, it was an outlet, it was something for them to be doing. A different class, a different type of racing, but nonetheless an important part of racing in Victoria.
So this track popped up in the late 1800s, the 1890s to be specific. It finished in the early 1930s. Tell us more there, Chris.
Yeah, so, you know, around about 1928 in Victoria, there was a very big push to clean up racing, to stop racing, reduce racing across Victoria. And so on the back of that, there was a number of race courses got slated to be closed in 1931. Fitzroy was one of them. It closed down. We then, not long after that, obviously went through the war years. After the war years, this 30 acres of land that we're on got quite heavily subdivided to what we see today. And you know, today it's a subdivision. There is nothing here that will tell you that this was a racecourse.
So that's why I'm glad I trusted you, because I wouldn't have known that this area was a race course. That wraps up things at Fitzroy, but make sure you keep tuning into Racing.com as we take you far and wide in Melbourne, in Victoria, for places where they once raced at.